Hi guys, today we are going to learn about formulas and some applications of geometry. Okay, this is going to lead into a topic we call literal equations, which we will do in class this week. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is define what a formula is, and I'm sure everybody has heard of different formulas before, but what a formula is, it's a rule or fact written with mathematical symbols. So make sure you write down this definition. As you guys write this down, some formulas you may have heard of before are E equals mc squared, a very popular formula. You may have heard of area equals length times width. You may have heard of a squared plus b squared equals c squared, the Pythagorean theorem. You may have heard of area of a circle equals pi r squared. And there's a lot of different ones. I could keep going on, but these are all formulas. Okay, and that's just a few examples. So what we're going to talk about first here is, what if we're given some of the variables and we're asked to solve for others? So in number 1 here, it says find the value of the remaining variable in each. And we're given a formula, I equals PRT. Okay, so I'm going to plug in what I'm given. I'm given I and I'm given R. So I'm going to substitute 246 in for I. I'm going to substitute 0.06 in for R, and I'm also given T is 2, so I'm going to substitute that in for 2. When I do that, I now have 246 equals P. I don't know what that is yet. I know R is 0.06, and I know T is 2. I'm just putting these in parentheses to show that they're multiplication, since they're all written next to each other. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to simplify this equation by multiplying 0.06 times 2, which is 0.12. So now on the right side, I have 0.12, and I also still have my P. Now to undo this multiplication here, to solve my equation, I'm going to divide by 0.12. These cancel, so I'm just left with P on the right side, and P equals whatever 246 divided by 0.12 is, which is 2,050. So it said solve for the remaining variable. The remaining variable was P, and I know it's equal to 2,050. This next one, I'm now given another formula, P equals 2L plus 2W. This formula probably looks familiar. It's perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. We're given that the perimeter is 126, so I'm going to substitute that in. And I'm also given that the width is 25. So I'm going to substitute that in for the width. So I have 2L plus 2 times the width. Well, we know the width is 25. And now when I simplify here, I still have 126 equals 2L, but I have 2 times 25, which is 50. And now I just have a two-step equation to solve for L. I'm going to subtract 50 to both sides. And then I'm going to get 76 here equals 2L, and I divide by 2. And 76 divided by 2 is 38. So I know my length is 38. I don't know what type of units, if it's inches, feet, centimeters, because it's not given in the problem. So I just leave it as 38. Okay, so that's how you solve for a missing variable. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do some word problems, some application problems. So first of all, when solving problems involving geometry, you don't need to write this part down. Make sure you draw a picture to help visualize the situation. That's going to be really, really helpful when you're trying to figure out what the answer and what to do in these problems. So this first problem right here, a farmer has 800 meters of fencing material to enclose a rectangular field. The width of the field is 175 meters. Find the length. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw a picture. We're given that the width is 175 meters. So I know it's a rectangle, the width is 175 meters. I also know that a farmer has 800 meters of fencing to enclose the rectangular field. If they have 800 meters of fencing, that means in total, they have at most 800 there to enclose the whole thing. So it's basically telling us that they have 800 meters for the perimeter, because perimeter means the total distance around a figure. So the perimeter is 800. So if I know that the perimeter is 800 and the width is 175, I'm going to have to use the formula that I just used above. Perimeter equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. I know that the perimeter is 800, so I'm going to substitute what I know. I know perimeter is 800 here. I don't know my length, so I'm just going to write 2L plus 2 times my width. I do know my width. My width is 175. That was given in the problem. And now it's just a matter of doing the same thing that I did last time. 800 equals 2L. Well, I know 2 times 175 is 350. And then it's just a matter of solving a two-step equation. Subtract 350 from both sides. When I do that, I get 450 on the left equals 2L. When I divide by 2, I end up getting L equals 225, and we know they are meters this time because that's given in the problem. So my length is 225 meters, and that's what I was looking for. My next problem says the area of a triangle, so now I have a triangle, is 120 meters squared. The height is 24 meters. So I have a triangle, the height is 24 meters, and I know the area equals 120 meters squared, and I want to find the length of the base. So I want to find this. Well, here we're going to need the area of a triangle formula. There's 2 different ways that you can either do this. The area of a triangle is either base times height divided by 2, or 1/2 base times height. You probably have used this before, so whichever you prefer. I'm going to use the base times height divided by 2. I think it's a little easier for this one. So if the area is 120, I'm going to substitute that in for A. So I have 120 equals base. I don't know what that is because that's my length. You could leave it as B or call it L, whatever you want to do. Should probably just call it B. And times the height. Well, I am given the height. The height was 24. So I'm going to substitute that in. And that's divided by 2. So I'm running out of room here, so I'm going to simplify it a little bit to the right here. So I actually have this 24 divided by 2. There's a couple ways you can do this. You can either multiply both sides by 2, or you can just divide 24 by 2, and that's what I'm going to do here. Divide these. So I have 120 equals base times 12. Or 12b, since multiplication is commutative, you could either write 12b or b times 12. Either way, you're going to have to divide by 12 to get rid of that. So my base here is 10, and I'm looking at units, so it's 10 meters. So how long is the base? Whoops. The base is 10 meters long. Okay, so moving on to this next part here, we're going to talk a little bit about angles. So the first are vertical angles. So what are vertical angles here? So vertical angles are, an example would be 1 and 3. Those are vertical angles. Another example of vertical angles here would be 2 and 4. It's just the ones that are straight across from each other. And what we know to be true about vertical angles, and you can kind of tell this, if you look at any of these vertical angles, the green ones or the blue ones here, they have the same angle measure. What that means is this angle measures the exact same amount of degrees as that angle measure. And same thing with the green one here. This angle measures the exact same amount of degrees as this one. So we use a fancy word for that. We say that the vertical angles, instead of the same angle measure, we say they are congruent. Congruent is a fancy word in geometry, meaning that they are the same length or the same measure. Now we have supplementary angles. What does that mean? Well, supplementary angles would be, an example are 1 and 2 here. Another example would be 2 and 3. Another example would be 3 and 4. And the last example here would be 1 and 4. So what are supplementary angles? Well, let me write the pairs down first. 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 3 and 4, and 1 and 4. Supplementary angles, the definition of supplementary angles is that their angle measures add up to 180 degrees. So their sum, which means what you add them up to, their sum is 180 degrees. So if I add this angle measure to this angle measure, it's going to be 180 degrees, which is half of a full circle. A full circle would be 360 degrees. It's half. So supplementary angles always add up to 180 degrees. Their sum is 180 degrees. Okay, and the last part here, what we're going to do is we're going to apply those two concepts. So now we look at these angles. I want to find the measure of each angle, and I'm giving these two. Well, what I know about these two is these are vertical angles. They're straight across from each other. And what we know about vertical angles, if we look back up top here, vertical angles are congruent. So if I know that one angle is 2x plus 24 and the other is 4x minus 40, if they're vertical angles, their measures must be equal to each other or congruent. And now it's just a matter of doing what we've done in class, solving my equation. I'm just going to get in the habit of moving the variable to the left. I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. If you chose to subtract 2x, that's also fine. So I have negative 2x plus 24 equals negative 40. Subtract 24. So negative 2x equals negative 64. And then when I divide by negative 2, I end up getting x is equal to 32. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. But the question is not asking me to solve for x. It's saying find the measure of each angle. So what I have to do is pick one or the other, since they're the same measure. If I know that the measure is 4x minus 40 or 2x plus 24, I need to plug in x in for one of those x's to figure out what the measure is. So I'm going to plug in 32 for x, and you'd get the same thing if you plugged it in for x in the 2x plus 24 expression, but I'm going to choose that other one. So if I do 4 times 32 minus 40, I end up getting 88. So what's the angle measure? The angle measure is 88 for number 5. 88 degrees. Okay, and then last problem here is number 6. And I'm first looking at these two expressions I'm given, 5x plus 12 and 3x. Well, looking at this, these are supplementary angles, meaning when you combine this with this is a straight angle, which means that its degrees equal 180. It's half of a circle. So if I add this plus this, 5x plus 12 plus 3x, I know that the angle is a straight angle, meaning it equals 180 degrees. They're supplementary angles. So now if I combine like terms, 5x plus 3x, I get 8x plus 12 equals 180. And now it's just a matter of solving the two-step equation. 8x equals 168. Divide by 8. And I get x is equal to 21. But again, I'm not being asked what x is. I'm being asked what is the measure of each angle. So if I plug that 21 in for x here, and I do 3 times x, well, x is 21. 3 times 21 is equal to 63. So that angle measure is 63 right here. But these are not the same angle measures, because if I think about this here, this angle measure is going to be different than this one. So this one right here, if I plug in x, I do 5. Sorry, I know I'm kind of writing all over the place. 5 times x, well, x is 21, plus 12. 5 times 21 would be 105, plus 12 is 117. So this angle right here is 117 degrees, which makes sense. You could tell it's greater than 90. And the other one is 63, which makes sense because when you add them together, their sum should be 180. Okay, so I know this was a lot of different concepts in one video. Feel free to pause the video at any time if you have any questions.